This Is Why is the sixth studio album by the rock band Paramore, coming about 6 years actually after their previous release, After Laughter, back in 2017. I say rock band somewhat mockingly because this group has gone through more than a couple of changes stylistically speaking, mainly starting out in the pop punk emo realm with their earlier material, then kind of slowly going into more pop and even honestly just straight up alt rock around the middle of their discography up to this point. And then they had a pretty big change with After Laughter, embracing more synth pop and new wave sounds, really more kind of harkening back to genres of the early 80s when we were kind of just coming out of the disco era. And so I was curious to see what this project would bring with its production, what genres the band would utilize this time around. The singles that were leading up to this thing honestly just felt like an amalgamation of different sounds and styles that the band had explored up to this point, varying from pop punk to alt rock to power pop to even a little bit of dance punk with the lead single This Is Why. So I felt like I was in for something a little bit different here with this release, while also maybe taking the baton from After Laughter and kind of just carrying on that sound, that new wave influence that record held so heavily, which I thought for that specific record did kind of work overall. I did think there were some hits and misses, though it wasn't the most consistent album experience in my opinion. This, in my opinion, though, is better. If I'm just getting straight to it, I think this is a better project that they put out. I think it's good, and while it may not have as many catchy and eye candy worthy hit singles like Paramore has had in some of their other albums in the past, I think instrumentally speaking, lyrically speaking, this is some of their most compelling work to date. This Is Why starts things off on this thing, the title track for this record, and pretty much dives headfirst into its new wave and dance punk influences. Talking Heads, I think, being one of the clearest, most obvious inspirations for this song in terms of the music. The band focuses on the topic of politics in this one, and specifically political opinions, and how we should keep a lot of them to ourselves, or as they say, to yourself in this song. The News is an interesting follow-up that also embraces the topic of politics and specifically news itself, and I like the idea of, you know, turning on the news but then turning off the news, because you want to stay away from it, but you also kind of can't stay away from it because you want to know what's going on, but then you see what's going on and then it's not appealing, and it's kind of just this constant loop that we go through. And the tune itself honestly sounds like something from their first couple albums. It has this energy and angst to it and a pop punk aesthetic that would fit really well in that era. I think Running Out of Time is a good song and a funny song as well, and I like Haley just talking about different things she wanted to do but she ran out of time, wanting to not go to the party empty-handed, but she just ran out of time. That line in particular did get a laugh out of me. Kes Komaka is somewhat of an interesting track too, with Haley focusing on different things that pan out in her life and just having to accept the way that things happen, and maybe hinting at also living in a post-pandemic world and having to accept everything that has ensued as a result of that. In some parts of the song, her delivery is almost a little bit spoken word-esque, which I think is neat. I just don't love the song on the whole, though. I do find the chorus to be a little bit nagging, and it's pretty short though, so I don't mind it. I just don't see myself coming back to it in the future, other than of course when I put on this album. I love the woodwind arrangements that we hear in the beginning of Big Man Little Dignity. They also pop up at a couple different parts in the song. And as far as the lyrics go, they talk about pretty much what the title alludes to, which is men and specifically masculinity. It kind of mocks this concept in general, with men kind of feeling this pressure to feel masculine and manly, you could say. I like at one point in the song, Haley kind of compares it to watching a movie with maybe a sad or dark ending, but you've seen it before, and so we're rewatching it and hoping that it maybe ends differently, but it never does, because that's just how it is. I love the instrumental on the song Figure Eight. I was trying to think about what it reminded me of when I was listening, and it feels like I'm walking through some sort of futuristic jungle set in an Asian country. I know that's like maybe oddly specific, but that's kind of the feeling that I get when I'm hearing this. Things get much more chill with the song Liar, which seems to be revolving around a specific relationship and feeling in denial about one's attraction and love towards another one, and kind of straying away from that in order to live a better and more stable life. The production on this one has a bit of a psychedelic tinge to it, with these jangly, echoey guitar lines and these distant and very minimal drum parts being played. We get an interesting contrast with the next song, Crave, which is noticeably more optimistic, uplifting, just happier, more joyful in general. And I don't mind it. It is a pleasant song, but I do find it to be a little bit bland. The instrumental isn't really doing it for me. It's fine. It's definitely well performed, but I do also just find it to be kind of generic too. We then, however, have the raw closer that is Thick Skull, and there's a really great lyrical metaphor that we get with this song, with Haley seemingly talking about different insecurities and different mistakes that she has made in her life, and she doesn't directly state it, but it's kind of insinuated that these are sort of skeletons in her closet, you know, the concept of that. And the title of the song being Thick Skull, she has all these skeletons in her closet, making her have a thick skull. Get it?
Did you get it? Did you get it?
That's at least my interpretation of it, but I honestly just thought it's like easily one of the lyrical standouts on this entire record. I really enjoy the song on the whole, and I in particular really love Haley's vocal performance on the back end of this track, the final chorus. I think it really brings a powerful closing to the song and to the album as a whole, which I really enjoyed overall. As I said, I do think it is one of the more interesting and really unique releases to date in terms of, you know, their discography. And I like the distinct difference between the first and second half of this record. The first 5 out of 10 tracks on here being more preachy and a little more standoffish and wanting to make a change and make a difference with life, while the final 5 of 10 tracks are a little bit more accepting and reflective of the way things are, and just like, you know, it's fine, this is just how it is, and life goes on. Obviously though, this is just my interpretation, just my opinion. We all have our own views, and that's just how I view it. Others may disagree, but I personally, I think there was a lot that they went over conceptually speaking here. So I really enjoyed the fact that they delve into those ideas and those concepts, in addition to also just the album itself being a fun listen. I enjoyed a lot of the music. The production I thought was really good. The performance from the band was on point. Haley's singing was on point. Very, very enjoyable record, and I would give it an 8 out of 10. But what do you guys think of this album? Have you enjoyed the different changes that Paramore has gone through throughout their career? If you ask me, they are definitely one of the better bands from, you know, around the time they started to basically transition into pop music. Bands like Fall Out Boy and Linkin Park are other ones that kind of come to mind for me, and I'm like not even as close to being as into their newer stuff as I am with Paramore. So I like what they're doing here. I look forward to whatever comes next. Hopefully it's not 6 years from now. Hopefully it's sooner. But you know, I understand they had side projects and stuff they were doing, so I'm just glad that they got something out, and hopefully we just don't have to wait as long next time. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you all for watching. I do appreciate it. And yeah, just comment below what you think of this album and your favorite tracks. Yeah, peace out.